Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 5 Episode 2, Dread in the Air. Now before we start though, I want to say sorry that my live at RTX London reaction video for Episode 1 took so long to get out. As you might have heard from some other people who have had reactions blocked as well, I've been in the same situation as them. But it's sorted now, and if you haven't seen it yet, click the link above to jump to the reaction with myself and everyone else at the RWBY panel who had an absolute blast watching the first episode. Also, before we get any further in this video, do watch with caution, as spoilers are ahead, folks. With that said, let's have a quick look at some of your comments from last week's review, and see how you felt about the volume's premiere episode. Cynical Spirit said that he liked the episode, but he had some fair complaints to voice too, like missing out on the Albane confrontation, the surprising unique animation following Yang's punch not really being his cup of tea, and the full reusing of the Volume 4 stinger featuring Crow and Oscar, a feeling that was shared by a couple of other commenters too, like Diver AMV, though he also pointed out his enjoyment with the overall character focus and signs that Yang still has some need of more growth in her future, while Freelancer Amber was one of the many who were big fans of Crow's drunken antics that closed out the episode. Don't forget that if you want to see your feelings on the latest episode appear in the next review, be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments down below, and tune in for the episode 3 review to see if you get featured. So after quite the stellar premiere episode kicking off the volume in high spirits, it's safe to say many were excited to see if the episodes following it can measure up. With things starting to get slowly heated in the Kingdom of Mistral, was episode 2 able to keep up the momentum, or did it buckle under the pressure? Let's find out. The episode opens with a crestfallen Professor Lionheart in his office, and his mood isn't improved with the arrival of Dr. Arthur Watts, who we know is now aware of the fact that the Spring Maiden's location is found, and she's a member of Raven's tribe, thanks to the information that Leo copied from Crow's scroll. Watts' arrival then leads to the two entering a hidden room, with Lionheart looking even more cautious and cowardly than previously, and for good reason. Because it's here where a seer Grimm is being kept, allowing the pair to speak with Salem in her domain, who has Cinder by her side. I'm with Watts, by the way. This Grimm is pretty impressive as a sort of Grimmified Skype, though I guess since it's evil it should be a Discord Grimm? Get it? Because Discord also means strife or conflict? Okay, fine, bad joke I know. But at least it worked better than Watts' attempt of insulting Cinder's wounded eye, who's now recovered enough to be able to speak fully now. Anyway, Leo passes on the latest regarding the Spring Maiden, and even though Salem initially praises Watts for the progress, not Leo, the Doctor admits it's due to Crow being aware of her location as well, and Cinder also uses this opportunity to find out that RWBY is in Mistral. Clearly, she's looking forward to paying back the Little Red tenfold for her wounds. Regardless, we then see Salem make it abundantly clear that she won't tolerate Crow or anyone else getting to Spring before she's under Salem's orders, by choking out Leo via the Grimm, and recalling the fear he had the first time that the two met. Safe to say, Leo's trapped under Salem's thumb, and Salem's making sure that he knows he's fortunate to still be breathing as an ally, rather than dead as a loyal friend and ally to Ozpin. Regardless of if it's due to protecting someone held hostage or for the sake of keeping Mistral safe in any way possible, Leo is clearly in over his head with working with Salem, but he's just not capable of fighting back right now, so what else can he do? For now, he just has to simply fall in line, do what he's been ordered to do, and hope he makes it out okay. Salem then passes on new missions for her associates. Cinder and her team, Emerald and Mercury I assume, will meet with Watts to gain the information on Spring's location before trying to convince Raven to side with Salem, for the sake of her people's survival in Salem's words. Then, once Cinder leads Spring to obtaining the relic, that's the green light for Hazel to inform the White Fang to strike at the Haven Academy, fulfilling Salem's end of the deal between herself and Adam's splintered faction. Calling it now, that offer will fall on deaf ears, and it won't end diplomatically between the two badass women. As for Watts, he has to fashion up a new tail for Tyrion after RWBY's slicing back in Volume 4. Given the Doc is very capable with tech since he made the Black Queen virus, I suspect it won't be too long until we see the crazed Scorpion Faunus back on the battlefield with an even deadlier mechanical stinger. The end of the call doesn't end this scene though, as Cinder has some complaints that she wants to vent off, namely Salem considering the aid of bandits and the fact that RWBY is still alive, when she feels that they are strong enough to handle anything right now on their own and to take out RWBY. Salem, however, sees the idea of working with bandits as a positive. Think about it. You have someone else doing the dirty work for you, they cause the conflict and get the blame, while Salem's lot can sit back in the shadows and watch the mayhem splinter the kingdoms apart without even lifting a finger. Why not make use of the bandits if they can do the deeds that Salem requires, at least until the bandits have fulfilled their usefulness? As for the RWBY matter, Salem is being cautious. They don't know if RWBY's mastered or even attempted to control her silver-eyed warrior gift yet, and after the damage that her untrained attack did to Cinder last time, it's best for the current Fall Maiden to be prepared for the next encounter. Salem promises though Cinder's time will come, and the power that she's promised will be hers eventually, but not for now. Cinder must be patient and focus on her new mission. The scene closing with Cinder ordered to bring in Tyrion. I suspect Salem wishes to give him a new mission as well, but not before warning him not to fail his queen a second time. Gotta say that was quite the solid opening chunk. After the first episode was all about placing our heroes into position for their next arc of progression for this volume, it's great that we didn't have to wait too long to see the same thing for the villains. We're aware of what's next for the likes of Cinder, Watts, and Tyrion, and Salem continues to come off as a very astute yet menacing figurehead. She's actually aware and admitting that her enemies can still scupper her plans, and it's best to act wisely when dealing with them. But she will also not tolerate failure, and her imposing threats still hold weight to them. It's also good to see how Lionheart is trying to keep himself alive with good graces to Salem, yet he's still treated as an outsider caught in the web and being used as a tool. I still think he's a good guy and he means well for his kingdom in these trying times, but without question, he's got himself in a situation that he deeply regrets. Now it's time to check in on Weiss, who's still in transit over Lake Matsu, though her pilot's now taken her through the gravity dust-filled floating islands of Mistral. A very cool use of the dust for a unique setting. Sadly, there's no time to enjoy the view, as the ship narrowly avoids another one crashing into the rocks. It's those ships from earlier that were being attacked by the Grimm, which are a brand new kind, Lancers. A nasty bug type that can shoot off its stinger like a harpoon and are capable of tearing up a ship apart with ease, and the swarm makes quick work of the remaining aircraft. But their attention is drawn now to Weiss's ship, and it's time to cheese it while they still can. What follows is a pretty fast-paced and entertaining sky chase, with the airship bobbing and weaving in and out the islands, and Weiss doing her best to keep the swarm away with her dust attacks. Also, props to the pilot. He reminds me a lot of that ship captain and his crew back from Volume 4, being brave enough to try and cope with a Grimm attack while working in tandem with the far more effective huntresses on board. Plus, the line about him carrying dust crates unofficially was rather funny, and it's nice to see some humor from even the background faces. It's also good to see Weiss letting loose again after dealing with her issues back in Atlas, and she still looks just as graceful and commanding as ever with her glyphs. But things get dicey when, after clearing out the small fry, the duo's efforts wake up a big bad Queen Lancer. A much tougher beast that can shoot out spikes and take a huge blast of various dust crystals like a champ. But as This Life Is Mine makes its rocking return, Weiss pulls out her trump card. It's time for the fighting debut of the Summoned Knight, and just like before when I said this in my Volume 5 opening analysis, the effects on this guy look awesome. Weiss seems to be very in tune with it already, with the knight being able to dive in, teleport out and strike back with rapid blows to cut the Queen Lancer into pieces with relative ease, though not before a rogue stinger strikes the ship. Even Weiss's glyphs can't halt its descent, with the fate of Weiss and the pilot being left unknown for the moment as they crash. This means it's time to head over to the White Fang HQ, and for us to finally meet the current High Leader of the Faunus Revolutionaries, Sienna Khan, who I have to say has quite the awesome design. Her attire and her stripes on her arms fit her perfectly as a top tier Faunus in the group, as well as being fitting for the character inspired by the Jungle Book's cunning tiger villain, Shere Khan. Also, Sienna is voiced by Monica Rial, who's known for roles such as Bulma Breeze from the Dragon Ball series, Stalking Anarchy from Panty and Stalking with Garter Belt, and Tsuyu Asui from My Hero Academia. Adam's here as well, by the way, trying to convince the High Leader to approve the attack on Haven Academy, but Sienna is outright refusing that idea. Despite being the leading force behind the White Fang abandoning its peaceful protests of the old days for more strong-arm violent tactics, Sienna is surprisingly rather pragmatic when it comes to using violence. She's still not exactly a good person, mind you, since the White Fang has become a terrorist group that's killed many people and still made Faunus lives harder by association as a result, but she's not exactly bloodthirsty or blinded by her demands for fear and respect for the Faunus to the point that she'll ignore how violence, when not necessary, can lead to its own damages. And you can still see the good intentions of bettering the Faunus' status in the world that could attract followers and supporters to her cause, beyond those who just agree with the aggressive actions. Sienna is also not shy in voicing her displeasure over Adam's role in Beacon's fall, and is teaming up with a group of untrustworthy humans, aka Salem's group. The High Leader recognizes that Adam is a talented and very popular symbol of the White Fang, but as someone that other members will look up to and is a notable name that the humans are aware of, he's made some very rash decisions that can muddy up the mantra of strength and conviction that Sienna believes in, and it's painting a picture of the group that Sienna can't agree with. Yes, the White Fang and Faunus as a whole may be more feared than ever before right now, but at the same time, that event justified the hatred of Faunus kind in the eyes of many, confirmed to the masses that the White Fang must be taken care of, and now with the destruction of the CCT causing communication issues for everyone, and all eyes are focused on the organization, it's taken Sienna's approval of violence to heights that she does not wish for it to reach right now. Adam's reply is, much to the High Leader's surprise, to welcome in Hazel into the White Fang HQ, so he can better sway Sienna's decision in their favor. An intrusion that doesn't exactly calm Sienna's anger, only increases it. Though Hazel actually tries to serve as a peacekeeper, even with the threat of execution the longer that he's still around. He's brave enough and adamant to press for Sienna's compliance, though he is still respectful. Firm enough with his own conviction to speak his mind, yet he doesn't wish for things to get out of hand, and for people to die when he sees that there's still an amicable compromise that can be gained. Hazel readily accepts that Sienna's distrust of him and his kind may never change, yet that doesn't have to come into consideration if she agrees with working with him and his allies for the benefits that both parties can gain from the attack on Haven. Even so, Sienna still won't buckle on her stance. No matter how much she wants change, no matter how willing she is to use aggression over her predecessors, striking at the Academy in this hostile time with the eyes of the world on the Kingdom's strained ties and the White Fang could lead to a war that, in Sienna's eyes, the Faunus cannot win. Again, we're seeing that Sienna isn't dumb. She feels she could be on the wrong end on the situation, so she won't act. Though Adam sees things very differently, much to even Hazel's confusion. Adam thinks that the Faunus can win a war with the humans, not just because of the support that Salem's group can provide them, but because he truly does see the humans as weak, and the Faunus as the true dominant race, the top of the food chain that the humans shouldn't just fear, but serve. Well, damn, I mean, I knew Adam wasn't exactly the biggest cheerleader for the humans, but he really does loathe them, doesn't he? And again, it's stuff like this that makes me think back on his ties to Blake. If he was always like this, then why did Blake connect to him so strongly? Something has to have happened in his past to fuel such a toxic rage, and I continue to wish that we'll know more about Adam's past sooner rather than later. For now though, his latest outburst seems to be all that Sienna will stand for today, signaling for the two to be taken away. At least, she tries, but none of her god even moves an inch. Oh boy. Turns out Adam's sway of the White Fang has grown further than we knew, not just to those in Vale, but now to some people in Mistral as well, and Adam's making his move. Even Hazel didn't see this coming, making things that much more tense as White Fang members from under Adam's control aim at the Tiger Furnace. And before Sienna can even attempt to strike back and defend her position, Adam seals the deal with a vicious stab right through Sienna. Holy hell. Suddenly the complexion of the whole White Fang issue has just been flipped on its head, and now we have a very gruesome end to someone that I was expecting to see a lot more of. I'll touch more on this in a bit, but for now, Sienna is slain, and as Hazel looks on with a curious yet visibly displeased look on his face to this sudden development, Adam quickly names himself the new High Leader, and orders Sienna's death to be seen as done by human hands. Sienna now becoming a fabricated martyr to rally support in Adam's favor, and stoke the flames for retribution. Hazel shares his displeasure about being left in the dark about all of this, though Adam just counters that getting the High Leader's aid for the attack on Haven just got a whole lot easier. Still, this doesn't sit right with the hulking man, once more touting that no one had to needlessly die, something that Adam doesn't agree with. And why should he? He's now the High Leader of the White Fang, and things just got a whole lot more troublesome. However, we still need to check in on Weiss before the episode ends, and while it seems like the pilot has sadly met his end, Weiss is still alive, but far from 100%. And to make matters worse, she's found by two bandits and their leader, Raven. Well, damn, things just went from bad to worse. Okay, well, that was a rather crazy episode, wouldn't you say? Full credit for the RWBY going for so many heavy hits in only the second episode of the volume. There's a lot that went down that was nerve-wracking to watch, and will unquestionably have ramifications in the future. For starters, let's talk about the big topic. Let's talk about Sienna Khan's death. Now, before I say anything else, I really enjoyed this entire scene. It was full of tension, we got shockwaves of Beacon's fall affecting even the bad guys, and it ended with a very dramatic and thoroughly engrossing, shocking moment. I'm okay with Sienna's death for what it will lead to with Adam as the new leader, and the small hint of friction between him and Hazel that could create a slow-burning breakup that might make Adam's White Fang a new major player in this ongoing battle across Remnant. But I will admit, I am sad that Sienna died so quickly. Her design is visually outstanding, her moral aspects were captivating to explore, and Monica's performance was very top quality. I just wish we could have had a few more episodes seeing the kind of environment that Sienna's attitude has created in the White Fang itself, as well as seeing more of a struggle between Sienna's moderation of power and Adam's aggressive extremism, before his coup d'etat begins to reshape the group's nature to match his attitude. And I would have welcomed a bit more of a fight in general. That way we would have known that Sienna wasn't just all talk, but someone who welcomed violence as a tactical measure. But again, I am still okay with the direction that we're going with here. Adam's hatred for humans has pushed into a fearsome level, and now he's at the head of the White Fang. This means even more of its members will now be a part of Salem's schemes, even if some do consider leaving, and things just got even harder for Blake. Not only is her old partner, the person who's caused her so much pain and emotional anguish in the past, the new high leader of the group that she's trying to change for the better, but also she now has to try and reclaim a group that has grown in number and might, thanks to the large majority of the White Fang now under Adam's control and in the assistance of Salem, so long as Adam at least doesn't strain the working relationship too far. The good news though is Adam's short-sightedness should breed some discontent from some members in the group, and if Blake can win them over, this should at least offer her some extra support towards her goals. Though of course, if she can get folks like Ilya or some other major Faunus representatives to back her up, that will do her some good as well. But still, the odds have suddenly stacked higher and higher for Blake, and with only Sun and her parents on her side currently, Blake will have to do some major efforts to try and make any impacts. That public address that Blake aims to soon make, I imagine won't go over well when Adam strikes first, and now that he has control, I'm extremely curious how the change in leadership will affect Blake's determination, as well as what moves she'll make with her back against the wall before she even got going. I also think that at this point, there's definitely no turning back for Adam. I know some folks in the fandom wonder if he'll have a redemption before a potential death, or he'll feel guilty for his actions in the long run, but I just don't see that now. He's done too much to turn a corner, so I suspect those wishing for such an outcome might be out of luck. Still though, I do want to know what led to such an attitude, and I'm sure Adam's leadership of the White Fang will lead to some more brutal and explosive moments. At least Sienna's death and Adam's usurping let us see more of Hazel as well, who's quickly becoming one of my favourite villain characters on Intrigue alone. We had glimpses in the past that there's more to the man than just his size or his intimidating presence, but we're seeing hints now of a man with morals, or at least a sense of standards even towards a potential enemy, even though he himself is a villain. Out of all of the members of Salem's inner circle, he'll be the one I keep my eye on the most, and hopefully we'll see more layers to the giant in due time, especially since we also know that he's someone from Ozpin's past. I'm also fond of what we got from Salem and Cinder when the Wicked Witch shared some wisdom. This scene highlights that Cinder too is in need of growth, to better understand the worth of pawns and planning before she can be mentally strong enough to command the power on the levels that she hopes to achieve. And I'm glad this mentor and student role between the two ladies comes off as very natural, yet still cold and chilling given their bad guy status. Beyond that, I found myself having a lot of fun with that airship chase. Yeah, it was more of a fun exhibition fight before we finally see the Knight in action, but the chase was still pretty cool, as was the new Grim. It was nicely animated, the pace was alright in my book, and we got some charm and banter from the pilot as well. As for Weiss, she continues to look impressive in combat, with the Knight being a very strong visual delight. Fantastic work from the effects team there, and it's great to see Weiss on fire, even when the ending looks to be putting her into a very dangerous situation. And yep, let's talk about some possible backlash and outcomes with Weiss getting captured. Before this, we had Crow and Team Ranger aiming to go to Raven's tribe for the Spring Maiden. The same goal is also shared with Cinder's group, and Yang looks to be making her way to Raven as well. And now Weiss is unwillingly heading there too, and will likely be used as a bargaining chip towards Atlas. Raven's home base is suddenly turning itself into one hell of a potential powder keg for a massive hostile confrontation that may even spike further conflict between Atlas and Mistral. In short, things are gonna get crazy soon, and I'm loving it. I'm also loving the voice work in this episode, with high praise being given to Monica, Jen, Garrett, and William, though my voice acting gold star may surprise you, as I'm gonna give it to Richard Norman, the voice of Weiss's pilot. Richard is an animation editor at Rooster Teeth, and I don't know if he has any acting background, but I was really impressed with how natural he sounded and how entertaining he was, even for a background role that got a lot more screen time than I'm sure many of us were expecting. Top job, man. So we're 2 episodes in, and we've had another thrill ride in my opinion. True, Sienna's final moments came sooner than expected with some negatives to it, and it could have been expanded on to offer more insight on the White Fang and the Tigress as a person, but still, the episode offered enough thrills, visually and emotionally, to chew on until the next episode. this is how the volume is opening up from the start, I hope it can continue this good form. Volume 5 definitely is hitting the right marks so far. But those are my thoughts on the second episode of Volume 5. What about you guys? Was this a good follow-up to the strong volume opener? How do you feel about Sienna's death? And what do you think about Adam's betrayal? Let me know in the comments down below, and you may see it appear in the next episode review. While you're commenting, please hit the subscribe and bell buttons to make sure you get every new video from me as they drop. And follow me on Twitter for more on anything to do with RWBY, updates on future content, and more. Until next time though, have a good day or good night, and peace out.